everyone, Jackie Hay here of Hay Hay Creations. Today I thought it would be fun to show you how I make my little polymer clay mushroom characters. So before we get started, I want to talk about the materials that I use. You don't have to use exactly the same materials. You can experiment with different brands, but I will show you what I use personally. Here's an example of a little mushroom character. Now he is made from polymer clay. His eyes are glass eyes and his teeth are resin. He's painted in 3 layers of paint, and I will show you every step to make this little character. So what you're going to need for this project, number 1 is aluminum foil, and that makes up the skeleton or the armature of your mushroom shape. You're also going to need some clay tools. Here is a variety. I do like the metal tools. You can also use wood, or these are, there's a silicone tip here on this one. Try different ones and experiment. Plastic is also an option. I got these on Amazon, and that's pretty much where I get most of my materials. Some of the things I'll get from Michael's or craft stores, but as you can see, there's different tips, and I would encourage you to just experiment, find the ones that you really like. This is my favorite tool, but again, it's going to be different for everybody. Okay, so a variety of sculpting tools, aluminum foil. For my creations, I use these resin teeth. These are not real teeth. I get that question a lot. They are made from resin, and I get them on eBay. A lot of dental supply companies sell these. All right. I use glass eyes. You can try your luck with plastic, but I do find that the glass will not melt. Sometimes the plastic eyes do melt a little bit, where they distort a little bit, like they'll get cloudy. So to avoid that, I just spend the extra money and I get glass eyes, and I do get these on eBay as well. They are kind of pricey. A pair of glass eyes will be anywhere from $3 to $5, sometimes even more if you get like really nice ones. You could paint your own eyes if you want. You could use beads. You could try different things. But I just like aesthetically, I just like how these look. So I do end up spending a little extra money. So foil, tools, eyes. Of course, you're gonna need some clay. I use Sculpey Pro, which is this beige clay, and then I just use regular Sculpey. And what I do is I mix these together. I find that just using the regular clay is too soft for me, and the Sculpey Pro is a little too tough to handle. So when I mix them together, it's just the right density, I guess, that my hands aren't working too hard and the clay isn't getting too warm in my hands. And again, I'll show you how I do this, but I mix these two together. So you'll need clay. And then the colors I use for my mushrooms, I mean, you can do anything you want, but I like to use a cream color, brown, and these are just acrylic paints. So brown, cream, I use a little bit of pink, and then I use red for the top. And then I also use white puff paint for the spots on my mushroom, but I would encourage you to try different paints. Again, it's acrylic, but try different brands. Acrylic works the best because it dries quickly. Yeah, so anyway, so paints, and then along with the paints, of course, you're gonna need water, different size brushes, and then either paper towels, or I just use cloth towels and then reuse them. So yeah, so that's all the materials. You will need an oven to bake your clay, but let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you want to do when you're making your mushroom character is taking the aluminum foil and creating a mushroom shape. So we're going to do that now. Make sure that you're not pressing too hard. You want to just gently shape the foil. If you crush it too much, you can't really undo that. So I'm just going to very lightly tap the foil into the mushroom shape that I want. It does not have to be perfect. Just get as close to the shape you want as you can. And remember, you're covering it in clay, so it doesn't have to be perfect. You can always adjust the shape when you put the clay skin on. So I'm just going to gently create the base of my mushroom and then start creating my top, and then I'm gonna just tap it a little bit more and a little bit more until I have it at about the size and shape that I want. Okay, just like that. I'm getting pretty close. I'm gonna add just a little bit more foil to this. I want my mushroom top to be just a little bit bigger. Okay, so just like that. All right, so you want to have something like this at the end. Okay, I'm gonna set aside my aluminum foil mushroom shape. And now what I wanna do is get my clay ready. Now I have, again, my Super Sculpey and my regular Sculpey. I'm going to just kind of rip this apart into little chunks. And you can use a knife tool or something if you want. All right, and the ratio I like to do is about, for every block of white clay, I use half a block of the Super Sculpey. And you can use a pasta maker to flatten your clay out, or I don't know if you have like a blending tool or something like that, but I just use my hands. And I'm going to work the clay, just kind of squish it between my fingers and make these big clay snakes, just like this. Again, you can use different tools for this if you want. I just use my hands. Same thing with the Super Sculpey. You're just gonna work it between your fingers. This is a little bit harder to work, but you get used to it. And I'm pressing it between my thumb and my pointer finger. And once you get these clay snakes, okay, just like that, you're gonna just squish them together, fold them together. And what this does is it pushes any air pockets out of the clay so that you won't get any bubbles or cracks. And I'm just gonna fold it, squish it, and twist it together until I have some workable clay. So this is what I tend to work with. And it's okay if the ratio isn't perfectly even. You know, if there's some extra white clay in one spot or Super Sculpey in one spot, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so something like that. And what I'm gonna do next is I'm just gonna take little chunks of this clay, roll it between my hands, and you're gonna make slabs When I taught elementary school, we called these pancakes, and they should be about 1/4 inch thick. You don't want them too thin and you don't want them too thick, but I find about 1/4 inch all the way around is a good thickness. And you just want to cover up your foil mushroom shape and kind of blend it into the foil until the whole thing is covered in a clay skin. So let's do that now. Okay, so now I have my aluminum foil mushroom shape completely covered in the clay, and I just use my fingers really to smooth the clay on and get a nice shape. Make sure that that clay is about 1/4 inch thick all the way around. Again, you don't want it too thin or too thick, so even thickness. And what I'm gonna do is I like to tip the mushroom cap back a little bit and find where I'm gonna be putting the face, and I'm gonna map the face out. So you can decide, this is the fun part, you can decide basically what your mushroom's going to look like. Does your mushroom have one eye or two or three? Is it smiling? Is it frowning? Just basically, what is it gonna look like? So what I like to do is take one of these ball tools and I'm just going to press it where I want the eye. And I've decided I want just one eye for this mushroom. So I'm gonna press it into the clay, just like that, okay? And I'm gonna take one of my tools and I'm gonna carve out a mouth. And I think I want this guy to have a frown. Maybe he's kind of scared. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm going to just kind of map out and draw kind of like that. It doesn't have to be anything you know, super crazy. And what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to add a little extra clay to make his bottom lip. So again, I'm just making a slab and I want to attach it kind of like that. And then I'm using my fingers to what's called transition the clay. So I'm just smoothing it so that you don't see any lines. And it is really important at different intervals while you're working, stand your mushroom up and make sure that he's not leaning too far back, too far forward, that he has a nice balance. I like to make sure that the bottom, I'll kind of like press, I'll indent in the middle, and then I'll just make sure I have a nice cushion on the outside so that he's not leaning too much one way and that would make him fall over. So you want to make sure you have a nice balanced shape that's going to stand up and be sturdy for you. So I'm mapping out the face. I have this large glass eye that I'm going to be adding. I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to take this eye. This is an antique doll eye. I'm going to press it into the hole that I made and make sure that I like the placement. Now I'm going to roll some clay into coils or snakes. I'm going to make a bottom eyelid and a top eyelid for this guy. And again, we're just mapping out the face. So nothing has to be perfect, but you want to just kind of put that roll of clay, one underneath, one on top. And I would encourage you to play around with the eyelids because that's really where a lot of the character comes from. I want him to have a surprised look, so I want this eyelid to arch pretty high, But if you wanted him to be angry or suspicious, you would close the eyelids a little closer together, or maybe have it like coming down like he's sleepy. Play around with your eyelids, play around with your lips so that he's giving the expression that you want. Okay. And once you have that in place, you're going to take your tools. And again, you're transitioning. So you're just taking your tools and you're smoothing out that clay so you don't really see any lines. If you wanted, you could add textures. Okay, let's see if you can see that. You could add wrinkles. I like to give my characters lots of wrinkles. But take a few minutes and go ahead and add the face to your character. Oops. Okay, so here is the sculpt. Now, what I've done is I've smoothed the top out. I added the frills underneath his cap. The eyelids, I've added a few wrinkles, also around the mouth and around his body, just a few little wrinkles. I'm gonna stick some teeth in. I'm just gonna stick them right into his bottom lip here. Let's see, there's one. I think I'm gonna add a couple more teeth to this guy. Maybe one here. Okay, let's see how this looks. And I'm just playing around with his look. But I am getting close to being ready to bake him. So maybe something like that. I think I just like the one tooth though. So I'm gonna take these two out and just add a couple little lines. A couple more little lines, there we go. So yeah, but play around with it. Okay, see what you like. And then the last thing I do is I always sign the bottom. If you look at this, I think it's really important to sign your work. And again, just do one final test. Make sure that it's gonna stand up nicely for you. It's not gonna topple over, especially with that top heavy piece, the mushroom cap. So once you feel like he's all ready, go ahead, you're gonna bake it in the oven. If you are using Sculpey or any kind of oven baked clay, I put mine in, it's 275 degrees Fahrenheit, usually for 30 to 40 minutes. And then I turn the oven off and I give it another 20 minutes just to solidify, and so that I'm not pulling a really hot piece out into cool air. If you take something that's really hot and put it into colder air, it does have, there's a chance it will crack. So give it some time to cool down in the oven, and then we will be ready to paint our mushroom. Okay, we're back. So I just took my mushroom character out of the oven after letting it sit for about 20 minutes. So it should not be hot, it should be warm or fairly cool. And the reason for that is if your character is too hot and you try to apply paint to it, the paint's going to dry very quickly and the technique I'm about to show you will not work. So here are my colors, minus the black. We don't need black. But what I like to do first is take a fairly large brush, actually maybe one a little bit larger than that, and I'm going to coat the whole character top to bottom in brown paint. And then I'm going to wipe away most of it. And what this does is I'm filling in all the crevices and all the wrinkles and the details so that they show up really nicely. And don't worry if you get some paint on the eyes or the teeth. Again, we're just going to wipe it away, so it's no big deal. but you do want to work fairly quickly. Dip your brush in some water so the paint's a little bit runny. And again, you want to just coat that brown all over the mushroom. And then once it's completely coated all over, take your cloth or your paper towel and you want to wipe away most of it. And that's just going to give you a nice start. I find that coating the whole thing in brown, then wiping away most of it, you're just going to have all that nice detail from your sculpture show up. So go ahead, coat the whole thing in brown and then wipe away the majority of it. I'm going to do that as well. Okay, so here's my character. I've coated him in a very watery brown paint, and then I wiped away most of it. So that is the first layer of paint that we're going to do. The next thing I'm going to do is create kind of like a beige color for the skin of my mushroom. So what I like to do, again, I'm going to use a fairly large brush, maybe one that's slightly smaller than the last one. And I'm going to mix some of that cream color with some white and maybe just a little bit of brown. Again, this is up to you how you want to do it. And I'm going to just paint the frills under the cap. Pretty much I'm painting everything except for the top of the mushroom. That's going to be red. And if I feel like I have a little too much, I'll just wipe away some. Just like this. If I want some of that darker brown to show through. And I'm just going to paint the whole skin of the mushroom pretty lightly. I do like to have that brown show through underneath. So just a light coating of beige. Just like that. And once I have that beige painted on there, I'm going to add a little bit of white for highlight. Just like maybe on the eyelid and on the lips. And I'm also going to add some pink around the eyes. And around like where the cheeks would be. Just little hints of color. The painting can be up to you. This is just how I like to do it. A little bit of pink around the eyes and the cheek area. And I'm going to add a little bit of that white to where the frills are. I want those to stand out. So that brown is in the deep part and the white is just showing through on the raised part. Just to make those frills pop a little bit. So I'm thinking in terms of highlights and shadows and where I want that blush to show up. Underneath the cap on the back, I like to add a little extra brown just because that would be a little more in shadow. And again, if you find that there's an area that looks too dark or too light, just take your cloth and wipe a little bit of that away. Okay. Another thing that I like to do is add a couple little spots just for character, so you can see how I have the pink around the eyes and a little brown for shading, and then these little spots here just to give it a little more interest and character. You don't have to do that, but you are more than welcome to. So you could take a small pointed brush or even a dot tool and just add a couple little spots to your mushroom. And then the last thing I'm going to do for right now is, again, take my big brush and I'm going to do a couple layers of red paint. Now your mushroom can certainly be any color you like, and I've done them in all different colors. I find that the red mushroom tops are the most popular, but this is your mushroom and you can do it any way you want. Okay, painting the top, and then I just go around and paint the underneath part a little bit. There we go. And then once this layer of red is dry, I'll go back and do another layer of red. And then I will show you, I use this Tulip brand puffy paint, and I'll just add a couple dots of just spots for the top of the mushroom. Okay, so once you finish the red top, you want to add some little white dots using puffy paint. Again, this is Tulip brand, but you can use any brand you like. So here you can see the finished paint job. Make sure you sign the bottom of your work. And the last thing I like to do is just take a paintbrush with a little bit of water and just clean up the eyes and clean up the teeth so they're not covered in paint. Just a little bit of water and wipe it clean. And there you go. There is our finished mushroom. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm going to try to put out tutorials once a month. If you have any suggestions for something you'd like to see, please comment down below. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye.